Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to greet you. I hope you are well. Today as Group 4, we are going to talk about the education system in Guatemala. Educational quality indicators measured through tests carried out on students in different grades and educational levels show that students are not learning what they should learn. Only 1 in 10 graduates, 11%, reach the achievement level in math, and a third, 35%, reach the achievement level in reading. When I read this, I remembered when I was in elementary school. Teachers taught me math and the rest of the courses very well, but at the time of evaluation, they made us learn pages full of content. We had to memorize everything. Wouldn't it be better to teach us to understand? Learning requires effort, and the use of that knowledge could several alter mental development. One of the best known studies was done with the drivers of the famous black cabs in London who have to memorize 25,000 streets to be granted a license. The process takes between 2 and 4 years, and many fail the last exam, known as the knowledge, due to its difficulty. However, after 4 years, they found that the brain structure of the taxi drivers had altered, as they had more gray matter in part of the hippocampus. Test takers will have to find a way to distinguish between those students who are just
Hello, this is Irma, education system. Unfortunately, in 2020, the world almost stopped because of the pandemic. Educative system was punished about that. In Guatemala, we had a bad part because most of our kids don't have the opportunity to study on a smart device because they don't have the resources for that. We can see how in schools most of the kids just pass the grade even if they haven't finished the school by doing homework and doing tests. I can say I had a decline in education because most of the students are just passing the year. Kids in first grade pass without knowing how to read and write well. They don't have a good comprehension when they read. Next year, we are going to see in Guatemala how this is going to affect us. I was listening to a psychiatrist, Marian Rojas. She was talking about how nowadays, for the first time in history, kids are less intelligent than their parents.
Nowadays, the Guatemalan education system suffers from many problems that make it difficult for people to excel in this area. The three main problems will be the following. Number 1. Poverty. The level of schooling in Guatemala is extremely low, since economic conditions and geographic location do not allow access to education for all people, especially in rural areas, where the literacy rate is about 75%. Number 2. The quality of education. Due to the same economic problems, many teachers don't have the necessary academic preparation and don't have the resources to provide quality teaching, which results in unmotivated students and low academic performance. Number 3. Illiteracy. This is a problem that originated in colonial times, when only the privileged or Spanish people had access to education, while the natives were exploited for labor. Since then, no government has put enough interest to improve this aspect, being the people of rural areas the most affected due to unequal conditions.
In Guatemala, the educational system works at different levels: kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, and university. The administration of schools have the participation of parents through educational committees and school boards. Kindergarten level works with children under 7 years old, in which children are taught basic things: personal hygiene, values, numbers. Elementary and middle school works with children within the age of 8 to 12 years old, and they already have an education. High school is only 3 years. People are already teenagers within the age of 13 years old to 15 years old, and at least university education. At this stage, students between the age of 18 years old make the decision to pursue their studies in a specific branch to become professionals.
Well, guys, following that, I'm going to talk about some advantages. So, one advantage we can mention is in some cases, parents are really responsible with their kids, and that is going to help us a lot as a teachers. You are not going to lie about that. I'm not going to do it. Second, public schools receive support from the government with inputs from the basic food basket or school. Elementary school, I received that help. And third, there are school or associations where they work with students who have some different capacity. I am going to mention Margarita Tejada Foundation. They help people with Down syndrome to train and thus a padres y amigos de personas con discapacidad, PDWAPA, promote the rapprochement of all association of parents, friends, and people with disabilities. Each change ideas and help each other. On the other hand, we have disadvantages. First, the teacher or instructor is not always teaching. Second, it does not take into account the concerns and need of students and communities. Sometimes students don't have the resources to receive their classes. And third, the skills of each student are not developed in depth. It is disappointing, but we must adapt to the new needs of each student.
Every time we refer about the educational system at the university, it is mainly this system that makes them lose interest in continuing to study. Because far from continuing to explore the characteristics, qualities, aptitudes, and abilities that each of the students has, it is quickly lost due to the great loads of stress that they generate in the students, either due to the different tasks, the jobs they have to do, not to mention that the majority of the students besides have a job, which accumulates a level of immense stress on most of them, which is why many of them choose to leave the university at the first middle or even at the end. This is because far from awakening what is interesting of saying, okay, we are going to continue study because I'm really learning something that is going to help me to develop in life, to have a tool that helps us in real life, in the field, at work, it becomes a torture. And the main factor that is learning, motivation, and interest in continuing to study is forgotten.
Nowadays, it is known that the most practical and safest way to study is to do it virtually. But as we all know, it is not easy to be sitting in front of the computer just listening to your teacher. But also, it is much more difficult for the teacher to catch the attention of his or her students. Why? Because he or she can't interact directly with them. And that is why it is really important to have visual material and also auditory material. For example, as videos, songs, images, in order to be able to make classes that catch the attention of students. And at the same time, they learn what they are being taught. My name is Marco Garcia, and thanks for listening.